All right.
Theme music.
Let's get it.
Scotch, bourbon, and rye, yeah, we on that whiskey. Wanna discuss an array of topics, conversation simply. Gonna drop your whiskey bars with the sip hitting for. Could you pass it, you want more? Another glass, let it flow. A steady pour. Steady pour. Yeah, a steady pour. A steady pour of growing, a steady pour of sharing, a steady pour of knowing. Now pass that Glen Carry. So pull up a chair, grab a glass, and enjoy a melanin-infused perspective with a whiskey twist. Yeah, yeah, a steady pour.
Yes, sir! We back! Welcome to another episode of a Steady Pour podcast. I'm your pour coach, Drew.
Calvin.
Tony, what's up?
Daddius, what it do?
And we are your co-hosts. And we got a special episode for you guys.
Something special.
Yeah. We got a guest with us.
Special. Who
We got a guest with us.
Who
Okay.
we got in the building?
You might have seen this distillery all over the gram.
All over it.
Talking that hype, talking about Texas whiskey. You know what I mean? Making noise.
Talk that
Calling
talk.
out that Kentucky bourbon out there. You know what I mean? Saying like, we got something to say. We got something to say.
Oh, they talking all right.
So we had to reach out. We had to get someone to pull up. Might be the distiller. Might be someone that's in marketing, sales. You might see him picking your Faro barrel picks out from this distillery. We have Emiliano Chalchiuhtohtli Angel Guajardo.
Wow.
Welcome to the podcast.
That name.
That wasn't edited either. That was all.
First try.
One take that. I'm proud of you, man.
That was dope, man. I was
welcome.
not trying that.
Welcome to the podcast, distiller of Still Austin, Texas whiskey. Welcome.
Welcome, brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I love going on to these things because I'm a huge fan of a whole bunch of folks. And, it feels like, it's more of an honor of mine because, I become a fan of a whole bunch of these folks who, y'all tell great stories. There's y'all, the Whiskey Trip with Big Chief, Bourbon with Friends. There's a whole bunch of folks out there who, for now, at this point in time, I've listened to and I become fans of y'all's. And then it's just kind of this weird, cycle relationship where y'all are fans of the products that we put out. And so we kind of geek out and become fans of each other.
There you
So
go.
to be here, man, it's really an honor of myself. I appreciate y'all, reaching out, and I'm happy to be here. So
Oh, that's what's up.
Of course.
We're happy to have you.
The whiskey community provides, and we engage, and we reach out, and we just have a good time. So I'm glad you noticed that and wanted to hop on the pod, man.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
absolutely, man. No, absolutely.
So, we have bottles lined up here. We actually reviewed a couple earlier in our episodes, and so we were like, we got to reach out and see if we can get someone on to talk about Still Austin, see how long Still Austin's been out there, how long you've been working there, and I guess we can just start out with just sort of your whiskey journey. Sort of, how did you get into the whiskey business, and how did you start with Still Austin?
So, Whiskey Journey is kind of this, strange travel and, road less taken. I was in, and I've been in the greater kind of spirits industry for the better part of almost a decade now. 7 years just about doing like the marketing, retail, floor work kind of service for liquor stores and whatnot. And in between all of that, was getting the master's program at UT for education. So I was curriculum instruction for high school with a focus and hyper focus in Latin American and Indigenous studies. And teaching for a long time was kind of like the goal. I come from a family of educators. My grandfather, a whole bunch of, if not all my uncles, my father, my mother was an educator at some point. My wife is an educator in elementary bilingual education right now.
Nice.
So it was kind of like, this is the goal. This is like the kind of dream. And then COVID hits, and we kind of see the outcome of that. And so after doing essentially 2 years with my master's, of student teaching and teaching in different capacity in high schools, seeing how the whole kind of COVID system and relationship between, you know, due process and education and the state, and we're in Texas, we can leave the policies to the side, but it's not necessarily favorable. And then on top of that, you add the fact that we're minority educators working predominantly in minority schools, and it just unfortunately it's something that I will always say, and it always gets like rips at the heart, but it's never the kids. It's always the other shit. And so that is what kind of stunted me for a little bit. And it was a real quick kind of flip of a switch, because that was 2020. And then immediately 2021, I'm like, okay, you know what? Then I need to make sure that I'm still doing something to provide for family. I'm still doing something that I love. I'm still doing something that I know I can create community. I can do education. I can build, and I can bring people together. And I was already in the liquor industry, again, spirits industry, doing the floor work. And so I said, okay, let me reach out to some of the folks who I know, see what openings there are. And I got into Treaty Oak, did 2 years at Treaty Oak, and then migrated over to Still Austin, came back home to my hometown, and I've been here now almost 2 years. So distilling for just about 4, and we're here. But that's kind of how it all transpired, how we got to where we're at. As far as whiskey specifically, it was just an old friend of mine saying, once I'm getting into this the liquor store business, she just sits me down and she's like, here's Weller, here's Garrison Brothers, take it home, sit down and sip it. Don't do shots. And so, after that, it was just like, damn, all right, cool. There's more to this. And then seeing the community, it's like, yeah, this might be where I need to be. And it's going to be probably where I die. So,
so was Weller's or Garrison Brothers your go-to before, obviously, Still Austin now?
So I'll say this, man, we can get into it even a little bit more as we kind of develop conversation, but it's why I also appreciate Still Austin, because Still Austin is completely a 180 counterintuitive to the way I prefer Texas bourbon. I'm a wheated bourbon guy. We make rye bourbon. I love pot still. We're majority column still. I love that Texas dirty barrel funk. I love it. We do things to counteract the Texas funk here at Still. So, but we still make really damn good whiskey, So at some point, even though it's completely counterintuitive to what I practice and would prefer to even do, it's still really good stuff, and you can't argue it. And so in the end, you just become like, you kind of just put your hands up and say, all right, well, this is what we're doing, and then find different ways to still, on the side practice what you like.
Man, what the transition from that COVID brought about in terms of going from education over to the whiskey industry. I would imagine your love or passion for teaching or learning also helped you embrace, I guess, this industry and get to the point where you're a distiller as well.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, it's beautiful talk with folks, because they see us distillers, and especially at places like Still, like Garrison Brothers, like Andalusia, Giant Texas, the Jim Beams of the world, etc. And you're like, oh man, these guys are, masters of the craft, and yeah, we might have a vast understanding of this, product and this experiment and this science and this engineering, but we're still learning shit every fucking day, it came to our, understanding realistically within the last year and a half over at Still. Some of our barrels we've experienced where in the first month of aging, there's a dip in proof in the barrel. And so, it's like, okay, well, what could be creating that? Well, what is the very, 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 very first thing to be evaporated out of the barrel into the angel share? Methanol. So we're realizing, at very recently, within the last 2 years, that the dip in proof in the barrel is that residual heads cut methanol that didn't make it past our traditional heads cut into the barrel, and then is the first thing to evaporate out. So you see a dip in proof, but then after that, proof just keeps spiking up. So in the first month, you're losing methanol, and that's kind of what we've put one and two together and learned again in the last couple of years. And so, it was this kind of phenomena that we were like, we don't know what the fuck's happening,
but it's working.
and then you learn and you see, oh shit, that's what's going out. And of course, it's because again, methanol is such a delicate ethanol. That's why it can evaporate out at a lower proof or temperature than your hearts would. So
interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, you learn something every day. You're learning something. It's it's a never-ending learning process.
So you said that your first place was at Treaty Oak, and then you went to Still Austin. So what has been your experience? I guess starting at Treaty Oak and then going over to Still Austin. What was that experience like?
So I love the folks at Treaty Oak. They are in a transition period. And I literally actually, I mean, this is the beautiful thing of just these like conversations in this community. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who is a distiller and stayed back at Treaty Oak maybe about an hour ago. And, he was like, hey, man, I was able to run the still like on my own like today and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dog, I couldn't be fucking more proud of you, being able to hack it out and sit it out. But, the transition from there to still, I'd say was, in the learning way and, being able to turn on the still, operate, cook, it wasn't too much of a learning curve. But I'll say if Treaty Oak was the Wild Wild West, Still Austin's like, buttoned up. In a good way. We've got an organization, we've got a data entry point, we've got, I was actually just, had the CEO's nephew shadowing me today. He was just interested. He's this kid who's interested in just like the engineering part of it. He runs with essentially variation styles of stills on naval ships, and so he wanted to see how this works. So like, all right, cool, man, come on, let's do this. Shadowing, and it was just like being able to explain and see how this relationship to the environment and something that I wouldn't necessarily have been able to do at Treaty Oak, I think is what really is putting things in perspective on how the transition is. We've got things organized to like a T. And so even showing him how our data entry points, we have everything from you will know who did the cook, who weighed in the grain, all the way to who put in the distillate into the barrel and palletized those barrels. And so in between that, you have 7 data entries. Whereas Treaty Oak, we were like, all right, cool. Sign the barrel if you will. Put the whiskey into it, and then it kind of goes and lives off and into the ether. And I'm still getting calls from friends saying like, "Hey, do you remember where you put this barrel?" I'm like, "Yeah,
I do."
Oh, this part of the Rick House, yeah.
Wow,
that way.
That's hilarious.
So, and it's no knock to anybody. We're all still very, very, very young in the industry in Texas, and just different practices, different styles of doing things.
Right.
But
So yeah,
buttoned up.
You said you were. It's still pretty young. So your whiskey here, we saw here that it said at least. That's the one we have.
At least 3 years.
At least 3 years. So is your whiskey about 3-4 years?
Yeah, so we've gotten to a point to where we've made so much damn whiskey in such a small amount of time. We've been able to put back, certain amount of barrels to where those are now starting to hit like the 4, the 5-year-old, the 6-year-old. Majority of the single barrels that go out will most likely be around the anywhere from 2 to 4 year range. But again, it just kind of goes to, show how well we're taking care of each barrel and how well we're doing and working with distillate. Because even at 2-3 years, these barrels getting picked for like single barrels, from very well renowned and very respected palates. So yeah, a lot of our whiskey that you will see out in the market, cast string, the mainstay bourbon or musician and the artist, Those range anywhere 2 to 3. Maybe there's some 4-year barrels in those batches. But the coops are coops of like maybe upwards of 30 something barrels in the coop. So you'll see some older, some younger in it, and it's all about balancing out. Your barrels, B barrels, C barrels, and it's the art of blending. You want something that gives you the viscosity and the flavor profile, the nose, and then the finish. And you can find some barrels that are 2 years old that have a phenomenal nose. You use those to put into your blend. Barrels that are 4 years old that have a phenomenal finish, but they're not so important or interesting on the nose. You use a little bit of those, and so these blends, yeah, they'll range anywhere from that kind of time frame. But yeah, we're getting in there. We're getting into some of the older ones.
Nice.
Okay. So, besides the fact that the whiskey is made in Texas, what makes Texas whiskey Texas?
And why does it get a bad rap? Like, when you say Texas whiskey, everybody kind of like turns their nose up at it.
They kind of scoff it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one, I'm gonna be honest, and it's just something that I think is just like the reality of it. They scoff at it because it's just Texas. Like everybody scoffs at Texas
Because it's not Kentucky.
much.
But in general, like everybody's like, the Longhorns, the Cowboys, like,
We will
Texas,
always scoff at the Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also not a Cowboys fan, so don't worry about it. We get along there. But so people just like Texas. We're loud, we're proud, and we're bold. And so I think that's just part of the kind of reality of it is that you put anything with Texas, people are just like, oh, okay, those fucking assholes again.
Really?
Big ass
but
Steve.
in the end, at some point, you just you own it. And you're just like, all right, yeah, we are those guys, but we bring something to the table that realistically is revolutionary, is very unique, is very important to the grand community and organization of things, and at the same time, it's still just really fucking good. But what makes Texas whiskey, I think is a combination of, we, especially in the whiskey industry, we're now talking about terroir. And so the importance of terroir, where that grain's coming from, how that grain's being harvested, when it's being harvested. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the story of the iron root, but back, 1800s, there's a famine and a bacteria that's just killing all of the vineyards in France and in Europe. Well, there's a gentleman who is in Denison, Texas, who is using and making vineyards over here, and the vineyards over here, because of the limestone, the plants were built to have what was called the iron root, and it was a root that was being able to live essentially in damn near any kind of like environment. So he takes that iron root from those vineyards, sends them off to Europe, and saves the entire wine industry. And so if it's not for this, winemaker in Denison, Texas, with the iron root, you don't have the wine industry anymore, realistically. And so that terroir of those vineyards is what saved the wine industry. And so we then now talk about the terroir of grain, and then the terroir and how it's reacting with the high water table in the Texas Hill Country. We're talking about the limestone all across Texas that you find, how it's reacting with the Edwards Aquifer, which rains all the way from Dallas all the way down to past South San Antonio. So the importance of it, the uniqueness of it, what that earthy limestone Texas salt water is like, and I think that gives a different kind of profile to what we have here in Texas. And then we start getting into the heat, and then we start getting into the barrels, and then we start talking about biometric pressure and how that's expanding distillate in the barrels in such a short period of time that you're getting color, you're getting a flavor development as at a fraction of the pace that anybody else in the world, let alone just in the U.S., is getting. So it's bold, it's loud, it's also just Texas, but it's still unique
Yeah.
True. South got something to say, man.
South got something to say.
South got something to say, bro. You know?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
man. Oh yeah.
Talk your shit.
Speaking of the whole like Texas experience, I guess I just also wonder how being a minority distillery, being in a place like Texas, which isn't exactly known for its
Hey man, you know, if you're
diversity.
down for the cause, yeah, we know. Yeah, if you're down for the cause, I know, you know, we know where you're going at. But yeah, man. So I again, just the way this industry rolls. Talking to Mike a couple days ago, Center Bourbon. And
Oh yeah, shout out to Mike.
And it's, you know, we're talking and it's like, okay, how do we tell this story of Texas whiskey, you know, and how do we tell this story of the development and of the people who are really, as we know, the real workers, like, you know, in the workforce? Well, okay, we look at, you know, how many Latinos are in the Texas industry. Well, there's maybe 11 of us, and I know every single one of them. How many black people are in the industry? There's not one Texas distiller that is a black man or woman. And I think that's something that Mike and I are really trying to change and really trying to work towards, as well as bringing other, you know, Latinos and other minorities into the workforce and into the distilling and the whiskey community. But, you know, it's such a tight community. And once people get into their space, you know, I mean, it's a great job, and it's really hard to say, and, you know, I'm gonna let go of this and go somewhere else. But you know, it's a unique experience. I will say, interestingly enough, I've had the least issues when it comes to racism or
That's good.
fighting. You know, any kind of, you know, ill will within the whiskey community. Very interesting. Something that you not really would be expecting to say, but that's kind of the reality of it. And I think it's also because the wherewithal that a lot of people have to be like, okay, if you're a real, like, just hard ass worker, we can't lose that person. And so if that's how it is, and it doesn't matter what color you are, man or woman, that is going to be where you're at, and you're going to be welcomed into the space because it's such a small community, man.
Right.
It's such a small community. So, yeah, interesting. We definitely still have a lot to do to make things better.
Right.
But you know, I think right now we're
Heading in the right direction.
You know, direction. Yeah.
Nice.
So how many distilleries does Texas have? Is there a lot of distilleries out there?
Yeah, so the Texas Whiskey Trail is always a good way to.
There's a trail. I got a trail.
Oh yeah, man. Texas is so big. We have 4 regions.
That was
of the trail.
Texas is huge.
Well,
He was talking about the
Try driving across Texas, man.
well, that's why I said it's a trail. I mean, that would have to be like
Have to be several trails. It's
Yeah.
more like a highway.
Yeah. So let's say this. So in what is considered the Texas Hill Country region, which is kind of like Austin's surrounding area, within like a radius of about an hour, we've got Still, Fierce Whiskers, both in Austin. We've got Banner, which is a micro distillery. They make maybe 5 barrels a year, up in Maynard, which is about 15 minutes north of us. We've got Spirit of Texas in Pflugerville, 15 minutes north of us. Then we have Andalusia, Treaty Oak, Garrison Brothers, Modest and Sons, Real Ale / Real Spirit, Milam and Green, all of those out just about an hour, maybe an hour 15 west of Austin. And that's just, you know, kind of like the main dogs. Those are the folks that, like, in the Central Texas area, you can go to a liquor store and find their stuff. There's other smaller, man, I feel bad. I know I'm missing somebody. But those are essentially the mainstay folks just in the Central Texas area. And, you know, you go to San Antonio, and that's about an hour and a half out south, and they've got their own crew, their own few handful of distillers. Houston, interestingly enough, unfortunately, they've been losing a couple of distilleries. So we just had within the last 2 years, Yellow Rose, Whitmire, and MKT, which is now kind of in limbo. But those 3 distilleries unfortunately closed down. But they've got their batch of folks. Dallas is, booming. So yeah, we've got quite a bit of distilleries. Texas Whiskey Trail is a really good way to kind of acknowledge and see where and who's on the trail, who's running, and realistically, it's kind of like paying dues to the trail. So who's legally being able to put certain stickers on their bottles. Grand scheme of things is when you come to the Texas Whiskey Festival, that's when you're seeing, damn, this is how really big is. Swift. I knew I'm another micro, and I just did a video so that I'm gonna be putting out in a bit talking about some of the stuff that they sent me.
Nice.
But yeah, they're a great small distillery as well.
Nice
single malt whiskey, big fan of theirs. But yeah, man. I mean, once you pop into the whiskey festival, that's when you're seeing okay, there's a lot of folks that are doing some really cool stuff here in Texas.
We gotta go, yo.
Minimum, I'd say this.
We definitely got to make a trip.
We definitely gotta go.
I say this minimum. We're looking at minimum about between the 4 main areas, maybe about 40 to 50 different distilleries.
Oh wow!
40 to 50?
All right. So when you were naming these distilleries, I figured you were naming the big cities that we kind of know. Are they in Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio, or are they in the towns adjacent to them?
The suburbs of.
Yeah, so still Austin, Fierce Whiskers are right, essentially 5 minutes away from the main highway I-35, equidistant to I-35 on each side, east and west of the highway. Spirit, Texas, and Banner are 15 minutes north-ish of Texas or of Austin, and then the other guys, the Treaty Oaks, Garrison Brothers, Andalusia, etc., all those guys are definitely out in what's called Dripping Springs, which is kind of like suburb of Austin area. Okay. But other than that, Houston's so damn big. Everything's it's just kind of like Houston. That's it. Dallas's DFW area is also kind of that big, and so that it's kind of also within that space where you're like, all right, here's DFW, and shit's all kind of just in there. And then San Antonio, once you get to the distilleries in there, they're kind of still within the area. Chaplin is a little bit north and kind of suburb of the space, but yeah, most of what you're looking for within each city is within kind of relative drive.
I was like, let me ask it a different way. Do we have to be back at home before nighttime?
The sundown.
Where are they? Are they in the woods somewhere?
When we go back to the distillery, do we have to quickly get home before the sun comes?
In the backwoods somewhere.
I'll say if you're doing the hill country route, you do want to get back home only because there's no lights on the highway, so you don't want to be driving. You don't want to be driving those deer-ridden highways.
Right.
Yeah, man.
No, yeah.
There's been a couple of nights coming back from Andalusia, and it's like, all right, we're never doing this. Yeah, you got brights on, and it's still you can't see anything.
Well, fellas, y'all remember how apprehensive we were when we were going out to Kentucky for the first time?
Very.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I'm giving Texas that same respect, and I'm asking the questions.
Believe me, those are important.
These are good questions.
Yeah,
they need to be answered.
Those are important fucking questions.
Just we plan on visiting.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, I also say this. When we roll out, we'll get plans and blueprint a whole trip. But when you're rolling with me, we go to distilleries, man. We're it's family. So
we
got
VIP.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Hey, we with Emiliano.
Emiliano, what's up? we with him.
That's what's up, man. I just had a question. You talked about some of the different distilleries and Texas whiskey. Would you say that there's a similar profile on a lot of these whiskeys, or that people outside of Texas might look at and say, I don't like that Texas, heat, or whatever that you said there's kind of a funk to it. Would you say that there is something to that, or is that just people kind of hating again?
So I think there's genuinely a profile.
Okay.
I think that profile will come from the reaction between the distillate and the barrel. Um, Whether you call it Texas heat, Texas funk, where you know barrel, over oak, whatever it is. I think it comes naturally from just the reaction at a high, or a short amount of time with high temperatures. That's what you're getting, and that's the flavor profile. I think it's more, something that I can kind of usually get away with saying universally is like it's like a charred vanilla bean. It's like kind of right there, just like boom. It's real dense, syrupy sweet, and it just kind of punch you right in the back of the throat. I think that's the closest thing that I can say is like what would generally be called like the Texas funk. Musty, charry, kind of sweet. But I'll tell you what, you go in a blind and you say there's one Texas whiskey and it's not Garrison Brothers, it's not Balcones, it's not Still Austin. I guarantee people are still going to be able to pin it out because that uniqueness to it.
Yeah.
That, it's just naturally across the state. It's just here.
Okay.
We just get really fucking hot. So
Yeah, I mean, nothing you can do about the environment, right? It's
yeah.
you got to distill where you're at. So interesting.
Now, did you find that it's usually, well, I guess, again, Texas is so damn big. So let's stick with just Austin, that area. You were saying that it usually falls in proof and then it goes back up. So is that because of the humidity of the area, just in kind of in general?
Yeah, so I would say, so things regionally, and again, this is just how big Texas is. Things regionally in Texas can change how barrels proof within the barrel. Sorry, whiskey proofs within the barrel. Hill country, Central Texas, we're so damn humid. We're just so humid all the damn time. I think it really does impact how much Angel share is being stripped out. Now in Texas, we lose, counterintuitive to what science and physics says, we lose water before we do ethanol, and so
Interesting.
because of that, the distillate or the proof with the distillate within the barrel after some time goes up exponentially. That's why we end up getting 120 proof barrels when the entry proof was like 116. But yeah, Dallas region doesn't always see a huge spike in proof, but they definitely still get that barrel funk. Houston area, they get the spike in proof, not as quickly as Austin, but they also have a very interesting, you can tell kind of like they're closer to the coast, almost like salty sometimes.
Okay.
So, it's different with each region, but definitely it's the San Antonio City area, and then Austin, Central Texas. We definitely see that spike in proof.
Gotcha.
Okay.
What's the highest proof you've seen at Still Austin in a barrel?
So normally, I'll say this. Normally, I think it usually really won't get over maybe 120.
Okay.
There's a Nancy pick right now that's a rye that is absolutely fucking crazy. It's like almost like chocolate syrup. 125.
Okay.
That's
wait.
Andrew's wheelhouse.
Where's that pick? Where's this bottle?
He's all excited about the rye.
That's Nancy pick. I'll put one aside for you. We'll work it out.
Let me tell you my address.
But so there's a barrel that will never be released. But
we'll just have to fly there to get a little taste.
So there's a barrel that is never going to be released, and I've got a sample of it from Mike. It's in a bourbon.
Oh, 154.
Oh, Jesus.
54. That's
Jeez.
Yeah,
that is bordering. That is bordering on a neutral grain
Yeah,
spirit.
almost like whiskey.
Yeah, no. But it's like chocolate leather. It's crazy. Chocolate covered vanilla bean espresso. Like it's so damn good.
Wow.
It's so damn good. But so that's a little side experiment. It's a barrel that kind of got written off the books and kind of lost in the ether.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah, so we're I'm doing a little proofing project with it, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And,
Nice.
but yeah, I saved a sample of it, and man, crazy. But yeah, don't typically see anything go into the hazmat absurd kind of 130s, and I say absurd, but I love those proofs.
Oh yeah, we
They're
had
fun.
some good ones. Garrison Brothers, I didn't really care for, like their small batch and like the other stuff they're doing. But that cowboy,
Man, that cowboy.
the 2023, because I've heard that last year's was a little too hot.
So they're essentially single barrels, So it gets put out like a single barrel pretty much. The 2023 was phenomenal.
So good.
I had 2024s, and I think it's a little bit better.
Oh really?
Better.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the proof? Which one was the proof where it was like 140?
I think that was last year.
That was last year. Yeah, that was 24. Yeah, 24 was 140.1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I have to try it.
Something like that.
Yeah, that was delicious.
The 23.
That was the one.
Yeah.
That was the one.
The one that was 140.
23 was the one we had. Oh no! Did you try that?
Yeah, 20
Did you try last year's?
That's when we went to that store. Right?
I went to that store.
They had the picks
he
out
did.
on the
That's
table.
right. That's right.
I remember when he sent that to the group.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's what's
Look
up.
at you with the memory to call back.
Sometimes, I'm here. I had a random question. I mean, it's not really random, but it's about the bottle. This portrait on the front, is this somebody important? Is this somebody that we can find in the real world? Or is this like, is this just like a nice artwork?
Yeah, so Mark Burkhart is the artist for majority of our bottles, all of our mainstay ones, and then as well the bottle and bond.
Okay.
And then of course the Tanager. And he was just kind of given, I think what is really cool with a lot of our artists kind of bottles is they're given a bottle of the whiskey, and they're kind of just given like free reign after that. So Mark Burkhart, the whole story is that he'll get a bottle of this whiskey, whatever it is, and then he tells the story through the art. And so the same thing's going on with every artist that we work with. They get a bottle of the whiskey, and then they kind of tell the story, or they go with, okay, this is the design, this is what we would like, this is what I want to do for, the label and whatnot. So that's, from what I understand, kind of like the artist and then the musician, and so you have the two that are unique in their own. So
That's
Do they
awesome.
taste
not
the whiskey
portrait
first?
Somebody specific.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, you taste the whiskey
tasted
first.
it
Yeah,
first,
yeah,
and then what are they getting on the flavor? They start to just kind of like paint from off of that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's fire.
Yeah,
that's fire.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the beautiful thing about whiskey. It's always flavor is based off of memory. It's not based
Yeah.
off of anything else. It's based off of experience, based off of memory.
Yes.
And so, what comes to your mind when you're drinking this whiskey? What's the story being told? So yeah.
So since you been at Still Austin, is there anything that you want to do different? See more of anything that you wanted to try to do there that hasn't come out yet, or you guys done yet? Have you guys done finishes?
Oh, we have a lot of finishes. We've done, and that's kind of it's something that I'm really ingraining myself with a lot more. And thanks to John, our head distiller, he's been able to open that space for me and take advice and whatnot from me. But something that I will always love as like and it's kind of like I'll put it on my resume kind of thing. Every single barrel finish whiskey that I put out at Treaty Oak, even the one that released after I left, all sold out. So barrel finishes is my thing. I love barrel finishes. I've done stout barrel finish. I've done a rye barrel finish, gin barrel finish.
Whoa.
I did a maple syrup barrel finish that was blueberry pancakes. And then I did my last project at Treaty was two 60-gallon 4-barrel blend cognac barrel finish. And those were fucking phenomenal. They're some of my favorite whiskey. So that being said, I brought that into Still, and I was just like, from day one, I was like, John, anytime y'all are trying to do finishes, like, please run it by me. I would love to have input, and I would love to continue this practice. And he's, since then kind of taken that into consideration. So, a little insight, the next rare stock pick, or if not the next one, the one after, is going to be a barrel finish that I had kind of essentially told him to do. So we had this one last oated bourbon barrel that was not put in the initial release batch from 2022, I think is when that released, because it was smoky and it just had this like very prominent, something went on with the barrel and the distillate and the way it reacted, it smelled smoky, just barbecue smoke. Told him, I was like, cool, man, you have this malted blue corn barrel that's stupid sweet. Drop it in there and let it sit. Let's just let it ride. 3 months later, it's like, damn, it's elevated, the viscosity of it, and the sweetness is there, and the smoke is nearly completely gone. So it's really fucking good whiskey, and we're excited for that one. But that being said, yeah, barrel finish is something that we do very often. And I'm excited to do more with them. So
That's what's up, man.
He's just naming all these bottles he's gonna be putting aside. You know what I mean?
Might as well make a steady pour shelf.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. None of my whiskey bottles really like ever last. Combination, obviously, right? We drink them, but majority of the bottles end up like getting split up for samples. So, like the Tanager, I finished one with friends, and then I have a second bottle, but the second bottle hasn't been cracked yet because it's exclusive. Like it's been already kind of divvied up for samples for people. So, Jack Hood Sommelier is getting 2 samples.
Okay.
Nice.
I've got some friends who are distillers in the North Texas area who couldn't find a bottle, so they've got samples that are waiting for them. But it's like, man, these bottles don't last. But it's because you want to share with everybody. So it's like, I get 2-3 pours, and then the rest kind of goes out.
Is that something that's gonna be a yearly thing, the Tanager, or was that a one-off?
Yes.
Yearly.
No, it's a yearly thing.
Okay.
I'll say this: the barrels for not this year's release, next year's release are already picked out.
Oh wow.
Okay. All right.
I'll see you next year.
We are ready.
Barrel.
We are ready.
So you shared, but you might want to see more of. Is there anything you want to see less of?
Amberana?
You guys have Amberana?
Well, so we actually did not do an Amberana. John, I think, and I won't put him on blast, but he said he was kind of like weary, kind of scared of it. I totally respect that.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
But that being said, I think that we have some whiskeys that definitely could develop and benefit from having like just a little like 2 days worth, pinch of cinnamon. And it might elevate some. I think it could overdo it with others. But, with how we're, again, talk about learning something every day, how we're learning Amberana wood reacts with distillate, it could be that these Amberana barrels become semi-double barrel, triple barrel, quadruple barrel, just kind of pinches of cinnamon, and then you're going and dumping it into a port. So you have this triple barreled new oak Amberana for a couple days, port barrel, new oak Amberana a couple days, Madeira barrel, whatever. And so this Amberana wood lasts for, people are talking about how they're getting 20 fills out of it.
Wow. Some people are doing it right. I mean, there's been some that we've tried that we enjoyed, right? What was it, the barrel that you have that's pretty good? Yeah. That one's pretty good. Dark Arts Amberana was pretty good. There's a few people that are like...
Honestly, I'm keeping it
Figuring out how
real.
to do
Most of the Amberana barrels that we've tried,
You've loved. Oh, yeah, you're a big Amberana guy.
I love them too.
But
Out of the 4 of us.
It's just it's a very unique and strong flavor.
Right.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
if you don't blend that out properly, it just
Overwhelm
kind
you.
of just slaps you around a bit.
Yeah.
And not in a fun way.
Yeah, man. I think I'll say this as somebody who grew up with like the buñuelos. I love the cinnamon. And if you're not familiar, Munuelos is like you do it during New Year's, and they're just kind of like fried tortillas that just like get over blasted with like brown sugar and cinnamon. And so I'm like, damn, that's a flavor profile that takes me back. So I've had some that are great. I've had some that kind of hit or missed the mark. They definitely sat in the barrel a little too long, but you know, it is what it is. We learn.
So Tone wants to see less of Ambarana. What do you want to see less of?
Man,
Don't get me started.
no. I don't. You know, I don't exactly know. I think I want to see, and it's hard because I don't know if there's like less that I want to see. I know that there's more that I want to see. You know, and I think it's just kind of.
That's your answer.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I think that probably is. You know, and I think it's if anything, I'll say okay. So I'll say this: if anything, less complaining and just try the damn whiskey.
Okay.
Just taste it.
Yeah, you know, if people got the time and the money to go to, you know, Washington State and
Just taste
Kentucky for whiskey and New York for whiskey and all these other places for whiskey, come down to Texas, shut your mouth and try the whiskey.
Didn't you just in that post
if anything.
about with Mello? He was like, I don't know, I just taste it. Like, just, I don't want to talk about it. We over here talking about it. Just drink it, and then we can talk after that.
Give him the Pepsi challenge. You know, come on down.
I love that. I love that. Because it's good stuff.
But I think that's true. I think people kind of get a sense in their head like, oh, I just don't like that. And it's like, have you really tried through it? Did you try one brand and not like that? Have you tried other brands? Because there's a lot of variety. So.
And then even then, did you try more than one thing within that brand?
Right.
Because that's a problem. So Mike, I'm sure y'all have seen, but Mike, Bandit and I, we went to Garrison a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
And Mike was like, I was just not a fan of the small batch, but holy shit, everything else is fucking phenomenal. And I'm like, yeah, that's the thing, you know, and I get it. It's also fucking expensive. But, you know, the whiskey's really good.
Right.
And, you know, but a lot of it's intentional. They over oak because that's Texas and that's what they're running for. And it's also the market they're looking for. And people still buy it, which is, you know, respect to them. But, you know, you find something. I just, there's something for everybody.
Gotcha.
Try different things.
I had a quick question. Like in the Tanager release, you had the different types of corn, right? How do you guys work with that? And how, like, I know you have specific like blue corn release, like red corn release. How did that come about? And how often do you guys put those releases out?
So they came about just honestly. I mean, so far before my time and really any of the other distillers' time. John just had this kind of creativity and this knack for trying different things, and thankfully he has extended that opportunity out to the rest of the team. So every year we have essentially what's called DRS Week or Distillery Reserve Series Week, and it's where we get, I'm telling, like 50 different super sacks, 2,000 pounds each of different fucking grains: malted blue corn, malted white corn, green corn, you know, malted wheats, you know, different kind of rye, you know, different kind of barleys. We had a smoked Vienna malt, you know, this last year. And you just like get a couple grains, make a mash bill, put it together, and we'll see how it comes out. That is essentially kind of what started and what ended up evolving to become the blue corn bottled and bond, the red corn bottled and bond. Some of these other mash bills that, you know, the 57% rye mash bill that's coming out Monday. Or being sold online on Monday. So that's how they kind of started, is this knack of just creativity, trying things out, you know, wanting to do something. And then those batches will be released essentially once every season or once every quarter. So the red corn is the summer release. The blue corn is the fall release. The white corn, which is our standard mainstay mash bill, becomes the winter release, and then the 100% rye bottled and bond becomes the spring release. Okay. So they get released essentially once a year, gotcha. With the new batch starting in the summer with the red corn.
So now, what are your you have like long term goals over at Still Austin in terms of what you're learning, what you want to see yourself doing?
So I talk to John relatively often, and I mean we just miss each other just because we both busy schedules. I do a lot of meetups, and I'm always hanging out with other distillers, and friends, family. But I think definitely one of the goals that, and ideally, I always say this, ideally, it's with Still Austin. I'm born and raised here, man. I ain't going nowhere. My family's fourth generation East Side Austin. There's not a whole bunch of us left. If you're familiar with the gentrification story of Austin, especially the East Side, I don't want to be going nowhere. It's my hometown distillery. It's my hometown. I know the community like the back of my hand. So ideally, all this happens with Still. But I think long-term goals turn into, barreling or doing like a double barrel or a barrel finishing program, and just kind of me trying to head that. I'd love to be a co-head distiller or head distiller with John after he gets the title of master distiller inevitably. The man's been distilling for 15 years, so it's coming up. I think also just being able to put my name on my own brand and doing something that's that's mine, that's like authentic to East Austin, authentic to Mexicano, and just who we are as a culture of just traversing the world and being what it is. But I think those are realistic long term, but definitely short term, and they're kind of within reach goals that I think can happen. Again, ideally with Still, I literally, again, crazy how these conversations work. Just had this conversation with John yesterday, and I was like, I'm not going anywhere, bro. Like, you need to understand that. I want you to understand that. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I want to do everything here. So, I think those are part of it. And some things, happen a little bit faster, and some things take time. A story that I've told John multiple times, over different drinks and different days. And that I like to tell everybody, because this also just shows the importance of what Still's putting together and how appreciative of it I am. But when I came to Still, it essentially was a demotion. At Treaty Oak, I was running the single barrel program. I was running the barrel finishing program. I was running tasting notes and profiles for every single special release that we did. I was working with folks who were interested in buying barrels like directly. That was all my stuff. All of those things, I was the guy controlling where barrels were being, or when barrels were being filled, what was being put into them. I was proofing everything. So that was all me. And then I come to Still, and I'm just like, all right, you're just a distiller. That's it. You just, kind of do this, get this right, and then we'll see what happens afterwards. And, again, I'm starting to being able to dip some of my toes here. I'm now, thankfully, in respect to our single barrel manager, Christian Wilhoff, he's invited me to some of these barrel picks now. And so I'm being able to kind of, see and feel, get a feel of that space again, and see how he does things. We all do offerings different, and I'm appreciative of what he's doing with folks and with customers and whatnot. But I tell that story because I really like for people to understand, like, it was a demotion coming over, but it was something that is gonna give so much more space for us to grow and to move forward. In the industry, but also, again, specifically here. We're growing so damn fast, it's not even funny.
Well, just in the short time of getting to know you, I must say, Still Austin's got a bright future.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see what you guys do.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on.
I'm excited to get down there. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but to your point earlier, we might have to be aiming for 2026.
Well, man. I'll say this. So April 12th is Texas Whiskey Festival.
That's right. I was talking to Drew about it. I know. You coming? You going? Come on.
I don't know, fellas. I see us in Texas.
I could just see it. I can see the vision. Hopping out the plane.
Hey, man, and I'll even say this. And if you come down, you gotta make it a couple days. Because
for sure.
You gotta stop by the distillery. Obviously, there's other distilleries that I would love to show folks around. But last year was for the Texas Whiskey Festival. It was a whole fucking week for me. You know, I was coming home just to sleep, but I was over at the distillery doing my shift, doing my thing, and then afterwards, it was family and friends who are coming in town for this event, and I'm showing them around. I'm taking them to the distillery. I'm giving them tastings. I'm bringing folks, VIPs from all over the place that are coming in town just for the festival, and it just becomes a whole fucking event, especially in the industry.
We know a few people down there. Justin, Black Bourbon Run. He's in Dallas, I think, so that might be a little far from where we're looking at, but
Yeah.
we gotta
Bring him down too. That's the thing.
There we go.
The crew that we got in Dallas, those distillers are kicking ass too.
Yeah.
Those guys are crazy.
That's what's
Yeah.
up.
1845 is something to be watching out for also
Okay.
up there.
Well, yeah, Emiliano, thanks for hopping on with us, man.
Appreciate you,
Giving us
brother.
that,
Absolutely,
sort
man.
of like our introduction to Texas whiskey.
Right.
You know what I mean? South got something to say, or should I say Texas got something to say?
They're saying a lot.
Texas forever, baby.
They're saying a lot.
Forever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, stick on just a little bit after the show, but we're gonna sign off now. Any other questions you got for him, or anything else you guys want to sign off on? You guys good?
I think I'm pretty good.
All right.
I mean, not really, but as far as this episode, yes.
All right. We appreciate you again, Emiliano, for hopping on. And to our audience, man, let us know what y'all think about Texas whiskey. What you think about Still Austin? What's been your favorite bottle or single barrel that you got out of Still Austin? And of course, like we said before, if there's anyone that we have to try, definitely send it our way, and we'll definitely give you our review.
How do people find you online if they want to connect with you on IG? Or something?
El Whiskey Ladle. It's EL Whiskey Ladle. I'm on. It's just that on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm putting out more shorts that I should be doing, talking about whiskey and everything in Texas. So
Nice.
Awesome. Well, go check them out, and you'll probably see us there soon.
Let's love to have y'all.
All right. Until then, we'll see y'all. Deuces.
Peace.
Well, that concludes this episode of